Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the really profound and touching narratives from the Sweet Thing 54 Winter Magazine. We're going to explore exactly how this incredible publication bridges deep theology with some truly powerful human history. It's a fascinating look at how ancient promises intersect with our modern realities, and we'll walk through the whole thing step by step to really grasp those core messages.
So, here's our agenda for today. We'll be looking at 5 key themes: hope in a dark world, the meaning of Christ, way, truth, and life, Bethlehem, house of bread, and finally, the old doctor's sacrifice. Let's get right into it.
Section 1, Hope in a Dark World, Reflections on a Turbulent Year. To set the stage for everything that follows, we're turning to the magazine's opening editor's letter.
The editor starts by pointing out that every morning we wake up to news of natural disasters and moral decay. And this isn't just a modern phenomenon. The text reflects on this universal human anxiety that has literally existed since ancient times, what some philosophies actually call a sea of suffering. Yet, amidst all the wars, the injustice, and an increasingly chaotic society that often just tosses its traditional moral compass out the window, there's still this persistent, deep yearning for peace and genuine human connection.
The author sets up a really striking contrast here. You have the earnest, heavy strokes of the editor's quill right alongside these bright, festive ornaments. It's a powerful reminder that despite the darkness and the heavy realities of our world, Christmas is, at its core, a story of divine love. It's a definitive promise of peace for a world that desperately lacks it. The editor emphasizes that even if some folks treat the season as just a giant party, the core message of a heavenly love reaching all the way down to humanity remains totally unbroken.
Moving on to Section 2, the meaning of Christ, unpacking the names. To truly understand this season of light, the author suggests we actually need to look at the very words we use.
Have you ever stopped to wonder where the word actually comes from? Well, the text breaks down the origins of these incredibly familiar terms for us. Christmas actually comes from Christis Masse, which means the Mass of Christ. It reminds readers that the holiday isn't just about the festivities, winter cheer, or gift-giving. It's rooted in a very specific, historical, and spiritual arrival of a Savior entering the human timeline.
Then we look at the name Jesus. The name itself translates directly to Savior. The magazine traces this all the way back to an ancient promise in the book of Genesis, this prophecy that an offspring of the woman would ultimately crush the serpent's head, essentially defeating the very source of evil.
And then there's Christ. A lot of people treat this like it's Jesus' last name, right? But the text clarifies that it's actually a vital title. It literally translates to the Anointed One.
Now, the crucial thing to understand here is that being anointed in the Old Testament meant fulfilling some very specific, heavy duties. You were anointed to be a priest, a prophet, or a king. The text explains that Jesus uniquely fulfills all 3 of these roles at the exact same time. He is the priest offering himself as the perfect sacrifice. He is the prophet proclaiming the ultimate truth from heaven. And he's the king who rules eternally. It's the whole shebang in one person.
Which brings us to Section 3, Way, Truth, and Life, the Journey of Humanity. Building directly on that identity, the magazine dives into his famous, overarching declaration, I am the way, the truth, and the life.
This perfectly illustrates the chronological journey of humanity's relationship with the divine. It's like a giant puzzle. It starts with the perfection of Eden, this direct, unbroken path between the Creator and humanity. Then comes the fall, where tragic disobedience causes separation, and the path is quite literally closed off, guarded by cherubim with flaming swords. Finally, in the 1st century AD, that impossible path is reopened. Because humanity couldn't reach up, the divine had to step down, reopening the way through ultimate sacrifice.
The author paints a picture of a world completely blinded by the darkness of deception and death, heavily influenced by dark spiritual forces. In this context, Jesus doesn't just show the truth, he actually is the truth that frees humanity from that deception, and he provides the ultimate life through his boundless love and sacrifice on the cross. This incredible act offers eternal restoration to a dying world.
All right, Section 4, Bethlehem, house of bread, from small town to spiritual sustenance. Let's see where this grand theology actually touches down on earth. It didn't happen in some massive imperial capital, but in a tiny town just 8 kilometers south of Jerusalem. The author beautifully contrasts Bethlehem's humble status with its destiny. Historically, it was just a quiet, lonely, grain-producing village. Even though it held deep roots as the site of Rachel's tomb, the story of Ruth, and the birthplace of King David. But its spiritual significance? absolutely massive. The name Bethlehem literally translates to house of bread. How incredibly fitting, the author notes, that this humble little town of wheat and barley was chosen to produce the ultimate bread of life for a spiritually starving mankind.
So Bethlehem is so much more than just a historical backdrop. It's the exact, prophesied pinpoint on the map where eternity entered time. But the text brings us right back to the present with a bit of a warning. Even today, as thousands of pilgrims and tourists flock there, you can completely miss the point if you only visit a physical location or get caught up in the busy holiday commercialism without ever personally encountering the ultimate spiritual sustenance that the house of bread actually represents.
And that leads us to our final part, Section 5, The Old Doctor's Sacrifice, Light in the Warsaw Ghetto. The magazine now transitions from that ultimate divine sacrifice to an astonishing, real-world human example of selfless love that perfectly mirrors the light and the darkness concept we've been talking about.
The magazine shares the translated historical account of Janusz Korczak. He was a brilliant Polish-Jewish pediatrician who served in World War I, where he actually wrote a groundbreaking book called How to Love a Child. By the 1930s, he had achieved massive fame in Europe as an author and a beloved radio host known simply as the Old Doctor. But when the Nazi occupation began in 1940, everything changed. Despite having influential friends and multiple solid chances to escape to safety in Palestine, Korczak categorically refused to abandon his 150 orphans. Instead, he chose to relocate with them right into the horrors of the Warsaw Ghetto, simply because they needed to feel comfort and security by his side.
He was incredibly defiant against the surrounding darkness. When ordered to wear the mandated Star of David armband, he famously refused. He looked right at a German official and told him, "I can promise you, I'll never wear it." Instead, he bravely wore his old Polish army uniform as he walked those dangerous streets, tirelessly begging for food and funds for his children. Amazingly, he even confronted the Gestapo and convinced the Germans to let his orphans attend a summer camp outside the city one last time, giving them a brief glimpse of green grass and sunshine right in the middle of a nightmare.
As we close out this explainer, we see how the divine love discussed earlier, the Savior stepping down into a dark world, is beautifully and tragically mirrored in Dr. Korczak's ultimate human sacrifice for those kids. He became a literal light in the Warsaw Ghetto. And it leaves us with a profound, challenging thought to walk away with. When faced with the turbulence of our own times, how will you carry this spirit of selfless love? How are you going to bring light into the dark corners of your own world?